Welcome to the sixth Hump Day Huddle ever and of the 2025 season. I'm Ryan Hopper. I am a news reporter here in Corpus Christi, Texas, if you don't know me. And I'll let my co-host Joe Duffey introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Joseph Duffey. Glad to have you back. If you're this is your another time that you're watching this episode, and glad to dive in to another week of Texas Longhorn football after another head scratching, confusing performance on offense for the Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian and these Texas Longhorns. But glad to be back with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I think head scratching is a good word, even despite the struggles that they had showed earlier in the season. Joe, on Saturday, heads were scratched, faces were in palms, hands were on heads, cats living with dogs. I mean, it was just a strange day. It was just a strange day for this Texas offense. I intentionally did not look up Arch's final line in terms of completions and yards because I wanted to take a guess because I figured you would have had it.
Oh, I got it.
I'm going to take a guess because it was bad, folks. But I don't know if it was sub 50% bad. I'll go 15 for 30 for a buck 70.
Oh man. Oh, it was sub 50%.
Oh,
12 for 27,
oh,
132 pass yards. Just
oh.
brutal. Brutal.
Mm. Against a
100.
team, mind you, that has one SEC win in now the past season and a half. One.
Yeah. It's honestly amazing Mark Stoops is still there. I mean, the
Mm.
guy has had, good seasons for Kentucky standards, and just this past season and a half, the wheels are kind of falling off, man, and he's just getting, you know,
You know what Josh Pate said
ended.
though, Joe? He said, honestly, not in terms of like winning stuff and being ambitious, but if your object is good pay, good job security, he's like, Kentucky's the best job in the country.
No,
You
seriously.
win eight
Yeah.
games, you win 8 games, you're a hero. You win
Yeah.
6 games, it's considered a wash because at least you still went to a bowl and you're in a tough conference.
It's like last
Crazy.
year when they upset Ole Miss, like stuff like that is how they
Yeah.
that Mark Stoops keeps his job. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna dive into this talking point really quick.
Mm.
But in general, I'm not liking some of these points about people saying this is Texas's rite of passage to being an SEC member. Have you heard of this recently? That a
What? Oh, that
grinded
you have to
a,
struggle in a tough night game in Lexington, Kentucky?
yes, that's the point people have been making as of late after this game. Brooks Austin, who
You
covers a
know,
lot of Georgia Bulldogs games, I get what he's saying. Like Georgia, the team that was winning back-to-back titles at the time and, trying to build a dynasty, they struggled last year in Lexington. Even the 2021 season, I believe, they only
mm,
scored like 20 points in Lexington. And it's like, I get what you're saying, man. But if you think about that environment this past Saturday, was it like having you shaking in your boots? I've seen crazier environments watching football. I have seen way
yeah, of
crazier.
course, of course.
It was a
But
homecoming game for Lexington, for Kentucky. Are we gonna act like this was more of Texas's failure or was just Kentucky's, crowd and how well they played? We know the
okay,
answer.
I'm
I don't
I'm
like their
so
play.
I'm in between here. I'm in between here because I think that because college sports is so tribal and people are so tribal about their programs, they by extension get tribal about the conferences because your conference inherently determines a lot about your program, right? And I think with the Big Ten's recent rise, a lot of people nationally are now trying to say that the SEC is back in with the rest of the pack. Compared to where Texas just was in the Big 12, it's absolutely not, and it's absolutely a step up. And if you don't think that going to Lexington or to Stark Vegas, where the Horns are going next week, isn't, which is the bottom seller of the SEC consistently, Mississippi State and Kentucky. If you don't think that's tougher than whoever the two worst programs in the Big 12 you think are, that's crazy.
I'll give
It's
it to
tougher.
Mississippi State. I'll give it to Mississippi State, especially the game that had Arizona State. I don't know about Kentucky.
What? Oh well,
And
and we'll get to the Bulldogs. Took Tennessee to overtime.
yeah,
Took
and
Tennessee to
it's
overtime. Lost last week to Florida by 2 in the Swamp. Less than the Longhorns did, mind you.
the thing that bothers me about that talking point, though, is that this is the exact same talking points that a lot of Longhorn fans despised when they were in the Big 12. A lot of Big 12 fans
But you know
despise.
what?
People outside the
But
SEC were saying.
I'm scot free there, Joe.
And it's like,
I,
what?
I'm scot free there because I was coming in to being a Texas fan as we already knew we were leaving the Big 12. So
It's just
yeah,
yikes.
I'm sure you're catching a lot of people with that point, but you're not catching me.
You're gonna step aside with that one, Javi. You have nothing to do with that. It's just, when
Yeah,
I look at this game, we'll dive in a few seconds, but just to wrap up this point, I mean, the defense balled out. They once
per
again were leaned
usual.
on. This
Per
is not what
usual.
you expected from a team after that Red River game, where you thought they were going to turn the corner against, a top three scoring defense in Oklahoma. This was not the game that I had, this team winning by just this with the walk-off field goal, which, by the way, Longhorns historically don't have a lot of walk-off field goals. Justin Tucker is the one that
No.
comes to mind, but they showed like the all-time in the history of the program. This is only, I believe, like the ninth all-time, like ever,
Wow.
between seven and
Wow.
nine or something like that. But it's just wild. So what a
I will
game, though.
say, quick positive note, Mason Shipley, the Horns might have themselves a kicker here,
Yeah,
which would be the first legit kicker, not saying he'll be this good since Cameron Dicker. They have not
possibly.
had right.
Yeah.
Bert Auburn was not, he always hit a big miss in him. He was not a legit top of the line kicker.
And this is the big plus of the portal. When you have a guy who's had this experience in Mason Shipley, it's not his first rodeo, not even
No,
close. I
no, it's
mean, you
not.
get the experienced guy just by your brand, and of course, a guy is gonna go want to go to, the Texas Longhorns to be their kicker, a place that was struggling
With no
really for the
comp.
past
Little to
the
no
past,
comp.
yeah,
Yeah.
no comp, and gone goes what's his name, Will Stone. So Mason Shipley, it was a no-brainer in his viewpoint once they Texas offered to attract him. Why not? And it's paid off thus far because you look at that SEC championship last year. I mean, come on, that's where the game
Yep.
was really won and lost right there. I hate to be that guy because Bert Robertson, like a really nice guy, but how
There
many
was
points were
other
left on the
areas.
board?
There was other areas, particularly offensively, where it was lost.
Yeah,
But
how many points were
because
left on the
they
board?
weren't very consistent. But
Yeah,
Bert Auburn does take some responsibility there.
yeah, for sure.
He folded under pressure. Not the first college kicker to do that. It's a lot of pressure on an
Hmm.
18 to 22-year-old. I completely acknowledge that. I guess any final thoughts on Kentucky? I mean, we thought to everyone at home, we thought we're not going to break down Kentucky that much because what else is there to say? The defense was tremendous. The offense was dysfunctional. They escaped with a win. We're on to next week. I
One
mean,
one final point.
okay.
The 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 way this run game looked, surprising,
Oh, yeah.
very surprising.
Yeah.
Kentucky is not a good run defense. They do
No.
not have a good run defense. I saw a game plan. Their guys played fine, stacking the box against Trey Wisner, but my goodness, like no movement on the line on these run plays. And Trey Wisner only had, I believe, let me go back. Yeah, 12 carries for 37 yards, got a touchdown on the day, but as a team, only 47 yards on the ground. That was quite puzzling. I did not expect that. That is something that
When you
kind of threw me
have
off
a
guard.
stable of running backs and a quarterback who supposedly is a great athlete and a good run. Okay, he's a good runner. I'm not going to put that in quotation marks,
That
but they
was true
always
too.
talk about no. But when remember when Arts was struggling, and they'll say it again now. But remember what he can do outside of the pocket. He can make something happen. He can make a man miss. Yes, to an extent. To an
And
extent.
some of the play calling, like I
Oh
remember in the first half, they called a QB draw and like a 3rd and 5. I'm like,
no,
I know he's a good
like you
runner,
do
but,
not have like Lamar Jackson.
Sark, what are we doing? Some of the
No.
play selection is just
And he's
interesting.
not big enough. like a Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, for example, to shrug off a backer because it's a backer because you're trying to get it to the sticks there. If you're running that play on 3rd and 5, or let's say you're running something shorter, designed QB run, you might get hit at the sticks. And if it's someone hitting you at the sticks or near the sticks, it's a backer. And if you're a bigger bodied quarterback, you have a much better chance of shrugging that off. Where Arch is elusive and tall, but if he gets hit, he's probably going down from a backer.
Yeah, and
He'd have to make him
unfortunately,
flat out miss. And that's just not, that doesn't happen very much inside the hash marks.
you sent this message to me earlier about how many times he's been hit this year. So
Yes.
is he gonna be durable enough to take these hits when he gets outside the pocket? I'm likely leaning no because he's been just massacred through this old line the whole season. So he's already been hit more, I believe, this year than Quinn all of last season. I believe that's what you sent to me, right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
So through now 7 games, Arch Manning has already taken as many hits as Quinn Ewers took through all of last year.
nuts. And that
And
weighs on your
and
mental as a
and
player. That
and some
weighs.
of that is on processing and not getting it out quick enough. But I think more of that is on you. Quinn had, I don't think we understand as fans the embarrassment of riches that Quinn had at the skills and at
Yeah.
the O line, and he had continuity. He
Mhm.
had continuity for 2 years of that offensive line, 4 of them, as they grew, developed. One became a first round pick. 2 more were drafted, right? Or were all 4 drafted, Joe?
I believe all four.
All
If
four,
not,
all four were actually all four. Yes, all 4 were drafted.
yeah.
Later rounds, but
Mhm.
and obviously one in the first round. But that means a lot when you have pro players at all at the college level. That means a lot to have that many in one meeting room as one O line where cohesion matters the most, and then to lose that and you're adjusting as a new quarterback in Arch's case, that disrupts so much. And his skills aren't as good. And we've seen this. Parker Livingstone would have been wide receiver 3 or 4 last year,
Yeah.
3 or 4, being
Yeah. That
generous.
up there. I mean, you're being generous for sure. And again, you talked about this a few weeks ago. I think they've regressed in almost every position group on this team. And again,
On
it's a high
offense. On
an
offense.
offense, yeah.
Yeah.
They've had a high standard, to be fair. This team goes to 2 straight CFP Final Fours essentially. I mean, it's hard to kind of try to beat that out. And so I don't want to act like this team is just like complete garbage. But the standard was the standard, as Steve Sarkisian likes to say, barring that one from Coach Mike Tomlin of the Steelers. And it is just odd to see just this receiving core not get as much separation as we were seeing from Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell and Matthew Golden of last year. It's just
Golden was
different.
such a security blanket last year.
And again, like I won't say like I don't give up on this team at all. I will not give up on them. I still think they have amazing talent for sure. And guys like DeAndre Moore Jr., they're just not as good, clearly, as those first round and second round picks or later round picks as well that we've seen the past 3 seasons. So it's not their fault. It's just this how it is this year.
And I think what distinguishes the really solid, good programs from the truly elite, great programs is how you replenish talent wise, but also how do you respond mid season when stuff begins to go wrong? Because stuff can turn against you in football, I would say, more than any other sport besides if you have pitching injuries in baseball. I would say that's the only exception to that. And stuff can just turn against you in a hurry in football. Injuries, now with the transfer portal, a transfer doesn't work out, and they just being able to replenish. And remember, they had stuff go wrong, but Sark also had Bijan and won 8 games. I know they were rebuilding there, but we've seen what Bijan's become. It wasn't all smoke. This wasn't Kyle Pitts hype for Bijan, and then he went in the league and didn't do much. He's an all-pro running back.
Hmm. Yeah.
So It's a case of what could have been because I think most of us can see it. This team could sneak into the playoff, but they're not going to make a run. They're not good enough.
This first college football playoff is going to be interesting. I
They're
wonder
not
what they're
good
going to
enough.
go. I wonder what they're going to say because this team drops in the rankings in the AP. And I like how they wait for the college football playoff because you can't put that in line with the AP. It's just too different to gauge, and some people have different viewpoints of where a team lies in the conference. So I like how they wait on this, but I'm interested to see where they put Texas. I really am because this defense is just so dominant.
The committee will help us, I believe, compared to the AP.
I think they will too.
And
They'll give
I think the AP is correct. And I think more often than not, I would rather have the AP poll decide the teams for the playoff.
and they'll start to
That's
give
how
them the
I feel.
benefit. They'll have them get the benefit of the doubt because of what they've been the last 2 years. And people who are Texas haters or people who just are more realists like us will say, I mean, have you not seen this team this year? We've been watching every single game compared to the rosters of the past 2 years. It's not even close. This team is, really blessed to be in the position they are now,
Yep.
almost losing to Kentucky. Of course, it was in Lexington, but my goodness, I mean,
And they could have beaten Ohio State if Arch had played like Arch has played in other games this year. They could have
just
beaten
why they were right
Ohio
there.
State in the horseshoe.
Yeah, I mean, they were right there. I
Like
mean, the defense
just because
balled
of the
out.
defense. Just because of the defense. So that's why the defense is the only reason they can sneak in the playoff. But as we now have to get going on our preview of Mississippi State, the beginning of that sneak, you can't look forward. You gotta look at what is directly in front of you. As mentioned earlier, the Longhorns are heading to Starkville, Mississippi this Saturday, a 3:15 Central Time kickoff. Texas has recently moved up to a 7.5 point favorite on ESPN Bet. It was 6.5. The over/under is set at 44.5 points. Joe, how are you feeling as the team named after a type of cow experiences the cowbells?
It's one of my favorite stadiums to watch a game, not personally, but to watch from the television. It was just so cool to listen to those cowbells. I know it annoys some people, but I think that
Annoys me.
it's one of the coolest traditions in sports, in college sports at least. If you saw the Arizona State game they had earlier this year in non-conference play, one of the best finishes you'll see in college athletics in your life. Just awesome to watch. And since then, there hasn't been much to cheer for Coach Jeff Lebby and his Mississippi State Bulldogs. And it's wild because I thought they could have possibly contended, to be a top half of the SEC, just to sneak in there. Not to say they were going to be, a top three finish,
How
not
many
at all.
are you saying four conference wins, Joe? You had four conference wins on the board
The
for
way they
Mississippi
were,
State.
the way they were looking after the Arizona State game, a team that was in the CFP last year, almost beat Texas.
It's a
The
Big
way,
12
the
team. You know
way
the
they were,
Big 12 is up and down like cryptocurrency.
the
I
way
mean,
they
all
were
those
playing.
teams year to year, except Tech now is going to be just pretty up because of oil NIL contributions. But the rest of them are all, Joe, they're going to be, that's a year to year conference. That's a
Sure,
year
sure.
because these smaller NIL schools are going to say, "Oh my gosh, this is our year. This is when our core is getting to be juniors and seniors. We're going to spend now." And so it's
Yeah,
going
I
to be
mean,
very up and down.
but also I'm factoring the fact that, they were right there against Tennessee. They were right
They
there.
were right there, and they were right there in the swamp against Florida, lost by two this past.
And, this team has just found a way, I guess, to get Billy Napier fired. Another team that Mississippi State Athletics finds a way to, screw over the opposing coach, even in a loss that they had
Which is
against the Gators.
crazy, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
history repeats itself in a way, but I'm not afraid of this game at all. I can't say that it's going to be just a gimme game like I thought last week would be because we saw how that happened. This is going to
Yep.
be definitely a more challenging environment. They know Texas is coming to town, one of the bigger brands, if not the biggest brand in college football. They're going to pack it out, and they're lucky this game is not prime time. That would be an even bigger
Yes.
difference maker. This
Yes.
game being at 3 Central is huge, but I don't think this offense of Mississippi State should worry the Texas defense at all. They'll do their job as we expect. I'm still just open on what this Texas offense can do. I think that they get the ground game back and running. I hope they do because I can't take another 4 quarters of what they did last week offensively.
So I believe they will because they will physically respond like how they responded against OU. After a disappointing performance, I think they're going to have them angry this week in practice, particularly in the trenches. And I think you will see a physical response from Texas on each side of the line. I do believe that. Defense, we've seen that pretty much all year, with the exception of the Florida game. Offense, it's been very spotty and inconsistent. I think, Joe, I'm trying to be an optimist here. Despite everything I've said, despite everything I've said in these episodes, Joe, what if I told you that actually this is the perfect game for Texas on the schedule right now?
Oh
The
wow.
perfect, this is the no, not necessarily because they're going to deliver, but because of what it can open up for you. Look, right? You can't look past Mississippi State, but they're 0-3 in SEC play. They were 0-8 in SEC play last year. Their last win in SEC play, Joe, was a 7-3 slugfest at Arkansas on October 21st, 2023, which is 2 years ago tonight from we're recording this Tuesday night. So 2 years, it has been 2 calendar years since their last SEC win. They don't have the resources financially to compete like a lot of these larger universities do in the SEC, especially those with football pedigree, and that matters now in the NIL era. Jeff Lebby is a good coach. He's had them in games, and the Longhorns are not to take them lightly, but I think this is a perfect get back spot for Arch in this offense. And it's so critical because this is also another SEC road start for Arch where he can dip his toes in the pool and get used to that type of environment and not being able to have guys hear the snap count and stuff like that and all the challenges that come with that and the cowbells. And I think this can be a good response game. What say you?
I like it, but you mentioned Jeff Lebby. I'll never forget this game, man. But he was the OC of that Dylan Gabriel Oklahoma game where they
Oh,
stunned
yes, he
Texas in
was.
the Red River, and he knows this defense. He knows them. He knows
But
how
they
to beat
don't have
them.
Dylan Gabriel, would be
Yeah,
my
they don't have.
counterpoint to that.
Yeah, they don't have
Not,
Dylan
not even
Gabriel anymore.
close. Not even close.
Yeah, and Jeff Lebby, and you look at that game last year, man. Even that Texas defense,
That's
they
true.
they played great, and that offense of Texas started off very slow, even with a Matthew Golden and a much better receiver core with Demo also still there. That game was like 14-6 or 7 at
Now
half.
remember though, that was Arch. So this is Arch's
Yeah.
second look at
Uh-huh.
Mississippi State.
Exactly. And so it's just like I feel like I'll see a slow start again. I don't think they'll be, coming out the gate fast again like we've seen in the past. But I think this will be another slow start for this offense. I'm banking on a big third quarter, especially in the ground game
Mm,
with Trey Wisner. Hopefully get that going because again, I trust this defense for Texas. I don't think Blake Shapen has enough for this defense. He's beaten Texas in the past when he was a Baylor Bear, but that was,
wow.
years ago. I mean, people don't
Yes.
even talk about his Baylor days at this
Wow.
point anymore.
Wow.
But yeah, when I look at this team in Mississippi State, this is, in a way, I agree with you, a perfect game to get your offense back and rolling. Start with the ground game and Trey Wisner and Christian Clark. They have to get going.
Yes.
They
I
have
believe
to.
Trey will because they can only go as far as their blocking takes them for the most part, except for, running a guy over, which, Trey Wisner is known to do. But I believe this is a huge game on the road. You can tell Trey Wisner when he runs feeds off the energy of the opposing crowd. You could see it at Kyle Field last year and just how he ran so angrily on every time he got the rock. So I agree. Huge game for Trey Wisner.
Mm. And watch out for, I believe, their main back and Davon Booth. He had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground last week. So I think he's going to be a really solid player to watch for Mississippi State. I just don't trust that Blake Shapen will be the guy if they were to compete against Texas in the second half, that he's going to be the reason why. I think it'll be because of their ground game with guys like Booth and Xavier Gayton. But I trust Texas defense to keep them in it, even if this offense for Texas struggles like we saw last week. So hopefully the ground game gets going because good run sets up a great pass game, and hopefully Arch can get those hits, to get those throws on target more, especially in the crossing game. He missed a few, just overshooting guys on drags, missing guys on out routes near the sideline. He's got to be more, on target, especially when he's trying to run out the pocket with, the pressure that's been coming in his face.
Absolutely. I will track it now because I've been meaning to. I want to track with tally marks big time throws from Arch every game.
Mm,
What I would consider a big time throw. Because one game, I believe it was OU, I was up to like 7. I
yeah,
was like, okay, 7, 8, like really solid, like what I would say would be NFL level throws.
yeah,
And I was like, wow, that's a great improvement. And then this past week, 2. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I want to just keep tabs on that, see how he does. Quick note on Mississippi State, 15 conference losses in a row. But here's what's interesting, Joe. You know what these two teams each lead the SEC in?
Mm,
13 forced turnovers, each of them.
wow,
Tied,
really?
tied at the top of the SEC.
I did
How
not know
about
that for
that?
Mississippi State. I did not know that.
Yeah. So Arch been known to be a little reckless. See games this year with overthrows. See that awful decision to throw into triple coverage against Louisiana Monroe last year. I'll never get over that. That is one of the worst interceptions I've ever watched live, and I've seen some Taylor Heineke interceptions live. That's one of the worst though from Arch Manning, that pick against UL Monroe.
You've seen some Heineke dive to the pylon too, as well.
Well, I'm talking about in person. I'm
Oh,
talking about in
fair.
person because no one saw that besides players because that was in COVID. No one was in the stands for him diving at the pylon, unfortunately.
Classic Heineke. I love that.
Yeah, that was classic. But I would analogize. I bet you can tell I've been watching a lot of Colin Coward. My analogy for this game, Joe, is this isn't the midterm exam, but this is that medium-sized quiz you got to study for. And if
Mm.
you ace that quiz, you're on your way. And then you have a big game against Vanderbilt, a huge game against Vanderbilt.
Nice little 15%er quiz, if you will. But
Yes,
uh,
yes.
but yeah, I mean Vanderbilt. I hate to look ahead, but they're looking very good. Well, a
They
rare
are.
occurrence for a school that has historically been bad. A top 10 team that's hosting College Game Day this week. This team is lucky they're playing them in Austin, but Mississippi State. I look forward to seeing a good game. If I could give a score prediction really quick as we're about
Oh,
to
yeah,
wind
yeah.
down, how about we do Texas 28, Mississippi State 17?
That's around the ballpark I was thinking. Quick mention before I pick, by the way, Michael Taaffe, we should have touched on this, had surgery on his thumb yesterday. He is not out for the season, but he is out indefinitely. We'll provide updates. Certainly not playing this weekend in Stark Vegas, and I would anticipate not against Vanderbilt either at home at the beginning of November. Joe, viewers, I'm going to say get right game for the offense to an extent. Texas 27, Mississippi State 14. That is what I'm going to say. And with that, that is going to be episode 6 of the Hump Day Huddle. Please like and subscribe to the Horns Illustrated YouTube channel. Hook 'em and have a great week,
Welcome.
everyone.